Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm Tahir Dinsar and you're watching SDTV. We are very familiar with one term and we always have an opportunity to listen, that project should be bankable. The policy should be bankable and the other policies should be bankable. What does it mean? It simply means that when a bank lends financial resources, it ensures that there's a due diligence and the paperwork and that they have seen everything. So their loan should not be converted into non-performing loans. We have seen the bank going down because of the non-performing portfolios. So if something is bankable, then obviously it's good. And nobody else than a banker can tell you that what is the bankable. Now we are in an era where the past is a very bad guide. And the new era, we have to gaze into the future to make policies. What does it mean? That means that making policy, implementation pathway, and learning on that is in a real time. We have to simultaneously learn, adopt a policy, and implement it. On the financial sector, on the climate thing, and all that, we have today with us a very eminent person, and I'm personally very fond of him because of his acumen on economic side, more than his banking portfolio. We have asked him to give us some time so we can talk to him. We have with us President of the Bank of Punjab, Mr. Zafar Masud. Very warm welcome.
Thank you very much.
Say something on this at a generic level and then we'll come to the specific 2-3 questions for that.
You've actually given a very comprehensive intro, and when you were talking about it, for a minute I thought that as if a very experienced banker is talking about what you were talking about, really. So my
After learning
compliments
from you.
to no, we are learning from each other, really. And you've been very kind and very generous with your compliments about me as well. Really, it's all about learning. We learn from each other. As you mentioned about the bankability of the projects, and especially when we talk about the sustainability piece, the bankability becomes even more important for multiple reasons. Primarily, the funding requirement is so gigantic and so diverse that for any commercial bank, which is a universal bank in nature and not a specialized institution, will always have a problem in doing the right risk assessment. And the mere financing requirement will put the banks on a back foot to begin with. So therefore, it has to be a collaborative effort. It has to be an inclusive effort on the part of the government, on the part of the development financial institutions, and of course on the part of the commercial institutions. This phenomena, which holds true not just in Pakistan but globally, we are seeing that blended finance is the way forward, which was the topic of today's discussion as well when we had the session, a very enlightening session, I must say.
How to blend it?
Okay, so you see, first of all, let me just try and skin the cat of what does blended finance means, because these are the terminologies which are relatively new terminologies and everybody is learning on the go. And I'll be happy to share with you my own understanding of the blended finance. So blended finance has 2 components to it. One is the fact that it's the expertise piece that institution or the government brings in, the risk resource, the risk asset on the table, which otherwise is not possible for any institution to figure out. The other one is the piece to leverage it to do a larger amount of financing. So therefore, the blended finances come through when one institution which has risk, resources and assets available will collaborate with another institution which has more lending resources available, just to create a scale of that financing. And then both of them, when they collaborate together, they'll be able to undertake not only a high risk project but at a larger scale as well.
Yeah. And do you think making a climate bank goes
Yeah, so the reality is that it's a good idea. We can argue that we can talk about a climate bank, and as I proposed today in the session also, that perhaps at the regional level, at SARC level, we must look at setting up a bank, because the climate agenda is so
Across borders.
interlinked,
Cross
and it's
border.
bosom buddies with the regional countries, that it makes a lot of sense to have at a regional level a bank which will do this job at
From
the local.
mountain to delta,
That's
everyone.
right. Yes, and beyond
Yeah.
beyond the borders too.
Yeah.
So it's something which we must consider and take it forward. I offered as Pakistan Banks Association, they'll be happy to take a lead on this one. Talk to the other SDPI, collaborate with SDPI, and then collaborate with the other banks associations in the region to see if we can work together to create a kind of a climate bank. That it's a good idea, but to be honest with you, I have a slightly different thought process about how the climate piece has to be. The climate compliance piece needs to be pursued. And to my mind, and you rightly said earlier also, it's all about narratives. And off the camera also, we were talking about the importance of narrative. The fact of the matter is that the narrative of the climate, importance of the narrative of the climate has to be taken out from the conventional way of economics to the individual level. And we need to highlight as part of our overall narrative why compliance is important, because of your individual health, because of your future generations' sustainability, economic sustainability, your own wealth sustainability. And once you create the incentive at the individual level, then the entire concept of requirement of financing and compliance with the climate will become something much more powerful and forceful than looking at it from a lens of merely economics or banking as such. It's really, to my mind, is beyond that. It's health, it's social aspect, it's future generation, it's your own survival, economic survival as an individual, your wealth survival as an individual, and this is what the narrative we need to promote.
Now just coming out little bit, one last question as on economic side globally, because we are interconnected and we cannot remain aloof and we cannot live as an island. I mean, we all grew up. I finished my whole career, exhumed my whole career under the Bretton Woods dictates, IMF and the World Banks and all that. And now under the IMF has given loan for the climate and everything. Now it seems that the Bretton Woods system is in malaise because of the US massive debt. Petroleum is going out of vogue, currencies are tumbling and all that. Do you think that it quadruples because the climate is there, the funding is drying up for very obvious reason. Now the countries have to stand at their own. How to do that?
Very good question, I must say. And look, every concept and idea in any initiative has its own shelf life. And it seems like that, Bretton Woods concept have not been very dynamic in terms of changing their outlook. And I even go to the extent of saying that these Bretton Woods institutions are actually template institutions.
Yeah. There's no doubt in
They
it.
always try and work through one size fit all concept, but the world is not like that. The individuals are not like this. Every individual is different from the others, and individuals create societies, individual creates communities, individual create countries. So the countries cannot be the same, and therefore the whole idea of one size fit all doesn't fit it. And hence, to my mind, now is the time for these institutions to do some kind of introspection and evaluate, the way they have been operating, because it seems like that they have not been able to deliver enough. Secondly,
Or they don't want to because they want to have net transfer of wealth from developing
well,
world to the first world.
that's
It was
more
part of their design, maybe. Well, I'm not saying that we
I
agree.
won't go to the extent of, that conspiracy theory, but it may actually be the case. But
Shashi Tharoor says that very
well,
openly.
I have very little credibility about
Shashi.
Shashi, especially, recently when, during the conflict, after post-conflict, when he went and put the narrative of India across,
Led the
that
delegation.
proved the fact that he has not been able to do a good job on that one. So to tell you the truth, I don't know if that's the reality, and I don't want to consider this as a. I don't want to question
Their intention.
their intentions and their nobility. But the fact is that the concepts are outdated, the systems are not working, and also the fact that now the realities have changed, the perils have changed, the requirements of the countries have changed. Who thought a few decades back that climate will become such an important and integral part of individuals' lives? But the institution never changed themselves as such in that direction.
We at STPI, we started in 1992
That's right.
on the climate. We knew that it's going to happen.
That's correct. And that is the reason why I think some kind of shift in the thinking and the operation of this institution is an absolute must. Otherwise, this institution may not be able to contribute as much as they could possibly do, or they intend to do, let me put it this way, or lack of intention, just to take your narrative forward or Shashi Tharoor's narrative forward, a lack of intention for that matter.
Yeah, last question. I know it's a huge question. It has political connotation, but nevertheless, I would like to ask you as an individual.
You have never shied away from asking difficult questions.
because an individual.
And you have me as a punching bag, always available to ask all the difficult questions.
Not the punching bag, because I understand that
it's a pleasure.
You can answer it.
It's a pleasure and it's an honor.
Yeah. What do you think? A bank is like a dam. The water comes, and then the dam distributes water for prudential and prudent use for economy. Your water comes through deposits. What the public saving is, because earning. So one is inequality, and the second is involvement of the public, which is trust. How would you operate without both of them?
So you see, it's a great question again. So first is obviously the banks operate on the credibility, on their governance structure, on their ability to sustain and perform and deliver. So that is a given aspect, and that makes the life of the banks difficult. That makes the life of the bankers difficult as well, because
very obvious.
Continuous sustainability and delivery becomes a bit of a challenge. The other part that you talked about, it's actually a very interesting analogy that you've drawn. I have a theory called fountainhead and pond theory, whereby I call it if you have a leaking fountainhead, then the pond will always be dry. If I have to mash it up with your analogy, essentially what we are talking about is that the dam will always be dry if it has leakages, and if it does not have the right channels coming into it in terms of resources. The important thing is that in case of Pakistan, the fact is that this dam is leaking. The dam is leaking because 48% of the economy is
debt servicing.
So I'm coming to that. 48% of the economy is carrying the burden through the taxation, national exchequer, for the entire 100% of the economy. 52% of the economy is out of the tax ambit, and this is, I'm talking about the formal economy. I'm not even going down the route of the informal economy, which is probably the same size as the formal economy.
Which is investing in Dubai and in Portugal.
So 3.5% of this 52% of the economy is merely contributing 3.5%, 3.6% towards the taxes. This is not a sustainable model.
Yeah.
And what happens is that the leakages are taking place in the dam, the funding is reducing, and the requirement of the government, and it has double effect. Because if the dam was full, the money, the water would have been there, it would have channelized in the right direction in a much more effective fashion. Or to meet the government's requirements, it would have been adequately available. The problem is that the government's requirements are not being met because that pond is or the dam is not being able to cater to their enormous requirement. And on the other hand, the leakages are not going into the government system either. And if they are not going to the government systems, the taxation piece, for example, if your tax to GDP is doubled, merely because 52% of the economy is not paying taxes, that's why I'm saying is doubled, then you are collecting what, 13? Just imagine that the debt will disappear, and the banks will be forced to channelize that funding or water available with them in the pond in the right sectors and towards the right
Use.
like climate change, for example, like agriculture, like SME. So this is a bit of a dilemma. The other issue is that it's not just the funding piece. It is also the fact that because these sectors are not under formal economy, they're not documented, therefore it's very difficult for the banks to fund them in the lack of available documentation to figure out the risks which are there on their way, as you very rightly pointed out in the intro.
On the due diligence.
We can't do the due diligence if we don't have the documentation.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure.
I don't want
Thank
to
you.
make it too lengthy for the for the viewers to digest.
Sure.
Very difficult subject matter. So, but it's a pleasure. You have explained
pleasure is
very well.
mine. Pleasure is mine.
Very well.
Thank you very
So that is in front of you. The banks, however prudent work the bank or some institution does, if the reform at the grassroots level, basic reform is not carried forward in a proper way, it becomes very difficult, and that is not sustainable. In today's discussion, we heard a very important and very interesting thing, that it should not be indexed on the GDP, but on the accumulation of wealth. And what would be the method and do? We'll take another session and we'll talk about that. And that's it for this program, and I request you keep watching our programs, and we are doing it on the margin of this 28th Sustainable Development Conference taking place in Allama Iqbal Open University's beautiful picturesque campus. Come visit for the knowledge and the treasure trove of knowledge, and enjoy the scenic beauty of the campus as well. The conference is going to end on 7th, and tomorrow we are going to discuss very important topics like cryptocurrency and other. So I invite you, and that's all for now. Bye for now.